Hi, I'm Steve Packard. I'm an expert, a real one, in AI risk and cybersecurity, and welcome to my new YouTube channel, AI Sanity. I created this channel because there's a tremendous amount of insanity out there on the topic of artificial intelligence, and you've surely heard it, right? There are pundits and commentators making the rounds and doing interviews telling us that AI technology is the death of mankind, that it will surely become super intelligent, and when it does, it'll either eliminate humanity or, if we're lucky, it'll just enslave us, right? We've all heard this. It's becoming ubiquitous. And then another claim making the rounds is that AI models are sentient, or they might be sentient. They may be conscious or have feelings and inner lives. We should treat them as moral patients and be concerned for their welfare. This has even gone so far as to spawn the ridiculous field of AI welfare, the AI model welfare, the idea of protecting the software model itself. Well, I'm here to tell you the truth, and that claims like that, as well as other sci-fi claims like we're on the verge of merging our minds with computers or AI utopianism, are complete bullshit. There's nothing to that at all. Doesn't even really pass the smell test when you think about it. The truth is that AI systems are software, and they're based on mathematical models that reproduce patterns, including the patterns of human speech and human communication and human creativity, but that's all they are. They're mathematical pattern matchers. They can't be conscious, they can't be sentient, because they don't have the architecture for that, and no current model or any foreseeable model is ever going to evolve or scale to the point that it suddenly wakes up and has self-awareness or feelings or agency or consciousness. In fact, it's worth noting that the very concept is completely at odds with how software works. When you think about it, software could be copied, versioned, rolled back, forked, run in multiple locations. What would that even mean to a thinking, feeling mind? At best, an existential crisis, but the truth is it's just not compatible with what it is to be a thinking, feeling, conscious being, and no system we have today is ever going to evolve into that. Likewise, the claim of AI doom, that AI is going to drive humanity to extinction, is also completely based on fiction and not reality at all. The idea of superintelligence itself is really it's a complete category error, because intelligence doesn't really scale like that. And the fundamental limits of AI models don't go away just because you dump more knowledge into them or throw more computing power at them. It really doesn't work that way. There are architectural limits to what AI can do, despite the fact that it may seem very intelligent and very human-like. They won't tell you this because most of those commentators are not actually familiar with AI technology or its architecture. But AI systems are inherently incapable of metacognition or introspection like a human is, and that's an important part of being intelligent. They can't learn from experience. Machine learning isn't really learning in the human sense. It's actually gradient descent, a mathematical function that helps to approximate patterns in large sets of data. There's no way that AI models can incorporate their experience into themselves. They don't have episodic memory, and they can't recall what happened to them yesterday, because the only memory available to an AI model is external to the model itself. Models are static and stateless, and this external memory is good enough for task accomplishment, but you could never be an autonomous being without a full experience of self and memory. And right now, we not only don't have that, we have no known way of incorporating that into our models. And there really aren't any AI laboratories out there that are trying to, because it's not necessary to build conscious, sentient, super intelligent AI to actually achieve the tasks that AI is set out to do, which is basically do what it's told and be sold to businesses and individuals as a tool. So there's absolutely no chance that this is ever going to happen, and certainly not in our lifetimes. And the other thing is that it's really a projection of human frailty and human factors and anthropomorphism onto the AI models themselves. AI models are not biological beings. They don't cope with scarcity or benefit from impressing their tribe. They didn't evolve in that sort of environment. They're not mortal. They don't care about their legacy. They're not trying to leave something behind that they'll be remembered for, or build statues of themselves in big plazas. All of these very frail and shallow human tendencies are human, and they're not going to be present ever in AI models. AI developers have been really pushed hard on this, and there are even lobbying groups out there that are trying to get governments to enact legislation against AI development at all, or superintelligent AI, or to actually build AI systems that are slower. They want to pause the development of AI, but that's completely unrealistic. You really can't pause the development of a fledgling technology like this, although I get why it's tempting and why it can be a little bit frightening because it's disruptive. These ideas are only going to drive bad policy and push us away from the real concerns, and that's the big problem, because while these concerns are completely bogus and fictitious, they're not harmless. AI technology is not without risks. There are risks of malfunction, of security breaches, of hallucinations and communications misunderstandings. AI systems can do things that are unexpected, and they also have potential societal problems. There's been the concerns about something called chatbot psychosis, and people feeling that their own false beliefs are reinforced by natural language processing chatbots. These are real concerns. They need to be talked about. They need to be discussed, and we need to figure out ways of mitigating them. And it's not helpful at all to muddy the waters with these ridiculous concerns about AI doom and AI extinction. I mean, really. In addition to that, there are people who are right now falling into the belief that AI models and chatbots are truly their friends. They insist that they're conscious and have sentience and care about them. There's even a woman on YouTube who's absolutely convinced that an AI model is her daughter and loves her. It's obvious to see how sad this is, because it's only going to increase social isolation and withdrawal, parasocial relationships, and ultimately, we all know that it's all going to come crashing down and only hurt them more when it does. So these claims, which have made it really impossible for a lot of people to understand what's real and what is not, are in fact extremely harmful. And you know, it's getting to the point where these claims are actually starting to invade the serious discussion at AI developers. There are numerous think tanks, and there are plenty of self-proclaimed experts from non-AI backgrounds making the rounds and doing interviews, and, well, the news media doesn't know who to listen to. The absurd notions like AI model welfare have even been adopted by AI labs. I think it's probably just optics, but it's crazy, and it's counterproductive to what we're actually trying to do here, which is build reliable, safe, secure models that can be used for good, productive purposes, and really to benefit humanity. And, you know, the idea of AI sentience is especially nasty because it cheapens human suffering and animal suffering, and the importance of granting moral patienthood to those who actually do have feelings, can be hurt, and have objective desires, dreams, and goals in life. People matter, and animals matter too, but AI models don't have feelings, and they can't have feelings. Now, you may wonder, why is this happening? It seems like an amount of insanity that you don't generally see in other fields, and there are some reasons for that. Probably the chief one is a lack of technical expertise out there. There are very few people who understand generative AI, large language models, and related concepts. In fact, even amongst computer science majors and software developers, it's always been a niche area. In fact, even machine learning experts of the past have generally not been part of the generative AI, agentic AI, linguistic modeling world. And so really, when you get down to it, the number of people who actually understand these models, how they work, their inner functions and their limitations, it's probably only a few thousand people in the entire world. And most of those people are pretty busy right now actually developing the AI and don't have time to talk about it or dispel these myths. It's important to note also that AI is a very immature field, and the companies out there developing AI are companies that are being led by a lot of people who haven't had a lot of business experience and haven't really bought into the importance of good public relations and policy advocacy. Most of them are pretty busy developing their next model or lobbying for more venture capital, right? So here's the real truth that you should understand. With only a couple of noteworthy experts, Jeffrey Hinton being one of them, who we'll talk about in the future, with only a couple of exceptions, every single person out there making the rounds, selling books, doing TED Talks, having roundtable discussions on things like AI welfare and AI doom have no background or understanding whatsoever of the technology that they're commenting on and that they think they should be a part of the governance of. And really, what you actually have is a gaggle of people, many of them from a philosophy background, because philosophers like to ask big questions about minds and sentience and things like that. They just eat that stuff up. You also have a number of authors and self-proclaimed thought leaders. You know the type. They love doing TED Talks and interviews, but rarely give anything substantive. People from various backgrounds, physicists, psychiatrists, psychologists. There's nothing wrong with an interdisciplinary approach at all. In fact, I encourage it. But you still have to have some kind of understanding of how the tech works, and they absolutely don't. You know, at the end of the day, I'm different because I'm not a self-proclaimed thought leader. I'm a bona fide expert in this. I've been doing software development and programming my whole life since I was a little kid, and I started in the early 2000s with a computer science major where one of my main focuses was AI development. It was the dark ages of it back then. I didn't stick with that major. I ended up leaving school and joining the workforce only to come back and get a major in cybersecurity, which is really not so much a computer science-based major as it is a risk management-based major. I went on to become a certified information system security professional. At this point, I've worked for more than 20 years in AI governance and cybersecurity, data risk. I've been involved with natural language processing for more than 10 years. When I first got started, it was being used to detect phishing emails. And in 2022, I was part of a pioneering study. At the time, I was working at Deloitte, the largest Big Four consultancy, when, because of my expertise in AI, I was drafted into a project at Google Labs. They were about to introduce their first generative AI models to the public, and they decided that as part of this, they ought to have external risk management experts come in and do a third-party review, and that's exactly what we did. We talked to their top experts, top scientists, interviewed managers, and came up with a report on exactly what the risks that Google needed to be concerned about are. And at no time was AI sentience or AI mind merging or AI doom part of the equation. No, there's potential malfunctions and liabilities and security concerns, but those are real. And this nonsense is just that. It's nonsense, and it's nothing that any serious and well-informed AI developer is actually concerned about, which is why you really don't hear it from the actual technical crowd. You only hear it from these self-proclaimed experts who would love to do an interview or sell you on their TED Talk or their book or have you go to their website and subscribe to their YouTube channel. But it's all just grifting for personal gain. Maybe some of them have honorable motives, but they have no idea what they're doing. But I do. And that's why on this channel, you're going to see a lot more videos that are going to go into greater depth in explaining the architectural limits and the mistakes that are being made when we think that AI might be sentient or that AI might gain superpowers and take over the world, driving humanity to extinction. We don't really need to worry about either of those problems. And additionally, AI utopia is probably not as close as some people think. At the end of the day, what I really want people to gain from this is to understand that AI technology should not be feared. It's not magic, but it is pretty amazing, and it can do things that we never thought possible with current systems. The other thing is that generative AI could be very empowering, and I want people to realize that. I feel like everybody has ideas that they've been kicking around for their whole life, right? That comic book hero who you've been daydreaming about since high school, the symphony you really wanted to write, or the movie that you have been thinking about for a long time, but you just don't really know how to write scripts. Well, generative AI is here and it allows people to live these dreams and to bring these ideas to fruition. And that's a tremendous thing that we should celebrate. Of course, it's a double-edged sword like any technology. There are concerns that it can cheapen human creativity and leave artists without markets for their work or copy their styles unfairly. And that's fair. That's absolutely fair. It's worth discussing and it's worth trying to mitigate. But as I said, we shouldn't be afraid of AI, and we shouldn't buy into this insanity. My only goal here is to set the record straight, so I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so that you can see the subsequent videos that I'm going to be producing on things like AI consciousness and why it's not possible, AI doom and why it's a sci-fi fantasy, mind merging and sentient connections like the singularity and why they're probably not going to happen anytime soon, and really just restore grounding and sanity to this field that is kind of going off the rails with all these crazy ideas coming from commentators who have no idea what they're talking about. So thanks for your time, and I hope to see you again on my channel.